Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start to read just this little snippet of practice information, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get into the main stuff, the main texts on your other pages. All right, so it says, at some point in your life, you've probably looked up and gazed at the moon and studied it in wonder. So I already start to think to myself, what is the focus of this one sentence? What is this all centered around? So we can agree that it's the moon. So next to topic, that's why you would have seen up there that I wrote down, the moon. For main idea, remember, what about the moon should I be looking for? What does the author want me to know about the moon? Throughout time, the moon has inspired many people. That is one sentence by itself, and that's telling me that the author is very explicit about what he's telling me about the moon. Okay, so throughout time, that tells me for a long time throughout history, the moon has inspired many people. I'm going to underline where it says inspired many people. And I'm going to go ahead and code that with main idea. And if you want, you can go ahead and code that with a T for topic. All right, so now I should be asking myself, how is the author going to support this main idea? All right, and you're going to go ahead and capture those little supporting details with me. Supporting details prove that the main idea is the main idea. In 1801, Ludwig van Beethoven composed a piano piece called Moonlight Sonata. Okay, how does that relate back to being inspired? When I think of someone who inspires me, I think of someone who moves me to do important things or things that are going to matter to the world. So, or things that involve some creativity or fun that might have a deeper meaning. So, let's see, the first thing, this seems like this is one of the supporting details. So I'm going to go ahead and write down supporting detail number 1. And you'll also be able to find that right here as well in your little side or in your packet. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata was composed in 1801. Okay, and these are quick notes. They don't have to be perfect sentences. So it would be okay if you just had Beethoven's Moonlight and put a dash composed dash 1801. All right. It says later in, oh, wait, let me go ahead and I'm going to use a different color to underline this. Composed Moonlight Sonata. All right. It's giving me a little bit of a text structure here too. All right, in 1801. All right. Later in 1889, chronological text structure again. Vincent van Gogh, this must be another artist, and I know you guys would have heard of him already. Vincent van Gogh painted The Starry Night. Okay, so it's giving me another name right here, The Starry Night. Ask yourself again, does this support that someone has been inspired? So I would say yes, because it's showing that someone was moved to do something that was important to them or that could be important to the world. In this painting, swirls of white and yellow create a halo around the moon. In 2011, Marilyn Singer, okay, it's yet another name. So we just heard Beethoven, we've heard Van Gogh, and now we're hearing about Marilyn Singer, wrote a book called A Full Moon is Rising. Okay, I'm not even going to read the rest of that sentence. I'm going to go ahead and just underline Full Moon Rising. 2011. I'm going to put supporting detail number 3. And I'll continue now about how people all over the world celebrate the moon. Ooh, I definitely want to get that right there. It says celebrate the moon. Up here it said a halo around the moon. When I think of a halo, you think of those the way that angels are usually depicted with that little golden light around their heads or on top their heads. And then right here it has, it doesn't give you too much about how it's how it was special up here, but down there it does tell you for the Starry Night about how they're paintings and swirls of white and yellow creating the halo, and then later on about how people celebrate the moon. It says the next time you gaze up upon the moon, maybe you'll be inspired by it too. Do I underline anything over here? No, because earlier this year you learned that we call that fluff, and we had that little hand movement, fluff. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add to this side right here. It says for the main idea about how people over time have been inspired by the moon. So I'm going to write down, let's see, over time, people have been inspired. I'm going to underline, double underline that, by the moon. Okay, I have my supporting detail number 1. Supporting detail, or if you want to call it key detail, that's fine too. I'm just going with what we called it all year. Supporting detail number 1 is right there. Supporting detail number 2, let's look back in our notes. Ooh. Here's another piece of evidence. Later in 1889, I'm going to write that down real quick. 1889, Vincent van Gogh painted The Starry Night. I'm going to go ahead. Van Gogh painted. And this was the name of this piece of artwork right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have the T, the S, and the N also capitalized. The Starry Night. I'm also going to add that idea about having a halo around the moon, because that shows that something is special. You're not really going to, if you were drawing someone that you weren't too fond of or didn't like that much, I wouldn't really draw a halo around them. So it's something that you might love and admire. I'm going to write down halo around moon. And I'm going to put our regular set of text coding that gives off a positive tone, mood, feeling, right? Okay. And our supporting detail number 3 went along with the book by Marilyn Singer. And because I can tell that, oh, what did I do there? Because I can tell that this text is going in chronological order, I'm going to keep that going on. I'm going to write down 2011. And notice that it says 1801, 1889. Almost 90 years later, and then 2011. Okay, that's our time. It's really giving us the idea of things happening over time, okay, or throughout history. You could even write throughout history if you wanted right there instead of over time. So 2011, Marilyn Singer wrote a book. She wrote, let's see, a full, I'm going to put my quotations again, a full moon is rising. I have not been in front of the board or in front of the Elmo with you guys. I promise I will make my handwriting back to normal. Okay, so back to this. We have that the moon inspires people. We wrote down our 3 supporting details. And for now, we're just focusing on one main idea so that we can brush up on what a main idea even is. But we will always be in charge. No matter how many main ideas we do, we will always be in charge of getting supporting evidence and supporting details for that main idea. Okay, we're not going to focus right now on summarizing the text. So go ahead and flip that page at this time. I'm going to go through a little bit of this with you, of the text, and then you guys are going to go ahead and do most of this on your own. And then we can always check back about it and we can see what you got right or wrong if you go ahead and you follow me on Zoom. Let me give you that information right now, even though you may have seen it already on my board. Okay, so go ahead and join me by opening up Zoom on Clever. I can actually show you that real quick right now instead of... Okay, let's see. Have to have my flare pens. Let's see. All right, so once you are on Clever and you're on your regular page, internet, you'll see down here where it says Zoom. This is where you're gonna find my links, by the way, like this one that that I've posted. Zoom is going to be right here. You would click on it. You would go, oh, there's me, hi. And then you would go ahead and you would join a meeting, and then you are going to use, this Zoom ID. It is 943-615-032, and the password is 567026. And once we meet there, then I can help you a little bit more with this, but I don't want to make my video too long. Okay, let me just take you through a little bit of this reading, and then we can pop on to Zoom really quickly from here. Okay, even tomorrow, if you're reading this and if you're doing this work on Tuesday morning, I'll still be there on Zoom, but the Zoom ID will change. Okay, so identifying constellations. So I asked myself, what is the topic? Okay, clearly that's going to be constellations. That's what we're going to be focusing on. What are we doing with constellations in this text that Alan James wrote? We're going to identify constellations. That means I want to be able to tell which constellation is which, right? I'm going to go ahead and look at these text features. Ursa Major, Orion. Okay. I have a little bit of knowledge about what a constellation is, and I just realized that he's holding up an animal. That's a no-no. That's not okay. That doesn't look friendly. So let's see. Let me put my little phone under my can of soup. All right. It says, for thousands of years, people have come up with ways of identifying and keeping track. Ooh, those are two important actions. Ways of identifying and keeping track of the stars in the night sky. I already know that this says identifying constellations, so I'm getting an idea that maybe, since they repeated this word, identifying and keeping track of stars in the night sky might have something to do with constellations, especially after I've looked at some of these text features right here. All right, so one way that so when I think ancient, I think of way back in the past. One way that ancient cultures made sense of the stars was by grouping them into recognizable shapes. What does recognizable mean to you? If you saw me in the mall or in the grocery, you would recognize me because we see each other every day. If you saw someone in the grocery that you saw only once in your life 9 years ago, well, you were a baby, like 5 years ago, you might not be able to recognize them. Okay, so I'm going to reread this little piece and see where I might identify the main idea. I know the topic is constellations, but what does the author want me to know about constellations? It says, again, let's see. I'm going to underline where it says identifying and keeping track. of the stars in the night sky. Okay, one way they did this, they made sense of stars, grouping them into recognizable shapes. It's telling me the way that they decided to do this. That must be very important, because if you're able to group them into recognizable shapes, that word goes back along with the word identify. If I can identify something, it means that I can recognize it. All right, so I'll go ahead and jot that down right here where it says main idea. I might not be too sure yet, but I'm gonna just make a quick little bullet point. All right, so main idea is about identifying, or if you want, you can use the word recognizing. And keeping track of, and I'm going to use that key word, constellations, ensuring that I spell it right because it's right there in front of me. Constellations. And it's not the specific name of a constellation like Ursa Major or Orion, so I don't have to put the C in a capital letter at this time. All right, so let's see. This is important as well, grouping them into recognizable shapes. So I'm going to put constellations are grouped into, I already have the word recognizing and identifying, into, I'm going to use the word familiar. I feel like in my head I just heard Jabril say that in my head. Familiar shapes. Okay. All right, those are just some quick notes that I've jotted down. It states, sometimes these shapes were based on elements of everyday life. I have a feeling that now I'm going to start to get into some supporting details that prove these two ideas right here. Identifying or recognizing and keeping track of constellations, and also that they're grouped into familiar shapes. Okay? I would call this the same main idea. It's just like a little two-part main idea. So we're still focused on one main idea. Okay? Sometimes these shapes were based on elements of everyday life. Animals, such as birds or bears. I mean, we don't see a bear every day, but don't be fooled. That's what they mean by elements of everyday life. It's the kinds of things and objects that we might see every day. We definitely see animals. In Tampa, you'll see some squirrels and raccoons, God forbid, and other things like that. Animals such as birds or bears. People such as hunters, good God, no, and so on. But back in that time, they used to see hunters often. Oh, I don't want to see a hunter ever in my life. Other times, the shapes took the forms of mythical heroes and monsters. Okay, so I'm getting sometimes and then other times. So it's giving me one supporting detail right here. Shapes were based on elements of everyday life. Okay, right here, and it says and so on. So think of those other things that you might see. All right, so that's supporting detail one. So everyday objects. Just so that I don't forget, I'm going to put down everyday objects / elements. Because a living thing is not an object. Okay. It says other times, sometimes, other times, the shapes took the forms of mythic or mythical heroes and monsters. So for instance, on Bokaween, I dressed up as Medusa. She's a mythical monster, right? The lady with snakes on her head, that was who I dressed up as at school. So shapes took the form, heroes and monsters. I'm going to write down supporting detail 2. Okay, and then I'm gonna stop after this sentence right here. It says these shapes called constellations, okay, that confirms what I said earlier on, that how these groups, these recognizable shapes, and the stars in the night sky that are grouped into shapes were called constellations. But down here again, it says these shapes called constellations helped ancient people make sense of the sky. Is this a supporting detail or not? Why is it a supporting detail? Why is it not a supporting detail? Guys, if we were doing FSA, and when you guys do FSA next year in 6th grade, they will try to trick you again. This is just repeated information. We already got information about the shapes. We got information about how this was a long time ago in ancient times. We got information already about how it helps us make sense of the sky by grouping them. So this is just repeated information. So we will never write this down because it does not support the main idea. It just repeats the main idea. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you right there. Go ahead and you can join me on Zoom. Can't wait to see you. And again, this is the Zoom ID. 943-615-032. You'll also have to put in a password. It is 567026. Also, again, remind yourself and remind your mom or dad or guardian to join me on Remind so that you can get, yeah, I know those are birds, so that you guys can get quick reminders and quick updates from me or the school. So the number that you're going to text is going to be to 81010, and the text message will be at Mort201. Okay, and just so you know, this is a little magnet that Miss B got for me. Oh, you have to see it. It's a puppy. Please send me puppy pics, or if you go on Zoom, please bring your dog. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.